You used a term just now for the gentlelady from California. You said we are in the process of. Actually, no, you said we are, and you said it in the present tense. It's fair to characterize that what you're really saying is we are now in the process of protecting that which has not been previously protected. In other words, since you use the present tense, I'm assuming that before this became very public, protections that will be in effect in the future were not in effect.
Well, we have protection of all of our investigations. Some investigations are protected more than others.
But Director, I just want to hold you to the explicitness of your word, if I may. You said it in the present tense. So, is it fair? Yes or no? Is it fair for me to assume that there are additional efforts now underway that will be implemented?
Yes.
Thank you. At some time in the past, was James Rosen a subject of an investigation as to criminal activity?
Not to my knowledge.
Is he now a suspect in a criminal investigation?
Not to my knowledge.
Thank you. So a warrant or any other document naming him as a suspect of a criminal investigation would be false.
Well, I don't think there's such a warrant out there.
Okay, so any kind of documentation that alleged that he was involved in that would be a false statement. I just want to follow up on what Mr. Rock has said. That
I think I know where you're going. I see.
Will you get me there?
We're not all the way there. The colloquy and questions that you ask, I'm comfortable with. When you go and say conduct described in a particular entity which could or could not be subject to ultimately prosecution.
But it's fair to say he wasn't a suspect, and we'll let the words of some document speak for itself. Today, are you using all necessary and available resources to apprehend those people responsible for the murders in Benghazi?
Yes.
To your knowledge, are the CIA, NSA, and other appropriate overseas assets being used to try to find those responsible and bring them to justice?
Yes.
Is there a reason for it? Can you explain to us, and this is a little longer than the usual answer, I'm sure, how it could be that we've got videos of them, we've got knowledge of who many of these people are, in some cases by name, and yet we haven't found one of them in Libya or some other country? Isn't that unusual to have such a cold record as far as we know today?
Let me explain in a couple ways. Yes, it is unusual to have such a cold record. As I articulated before, this is a unique situation. We've had embassy attacks before. We've had towards them publicizing their pictures.
Lastly, the people responsible for Benghazi, to our knowledge, are not U.S. persons. Therefore, if you knew the location of them, wouldn't they be eligible for a presidential-ordered drone strike, no matter what country they were in?
Time of the gentleman has expired. The director will be allowed to answer the question.
By others than I, who are more familiar with the ins and outs of the regime for undertaking such activity.
But to your knowledge, it would be consistent with other drone strikes ordered by the president.
Again, I'm not that familiar with other drone strikes, and I'd have to try to defer from answering that particular question on lack of knowledge and probably legal ability as well.
Okay. Well, with the chairman's indulgence for 10 seconds. Director, I want to thank you for your long years of service and for all that you've done for America. This is always a tough place to come, but you're always welcome. Thank you, sir.
Chair thanks the gentleman. The gentlewoman from Texas, Ms. Jackson Lee, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Let me start by saying, Director, we have interacted with each other for the past 11 years, and I want to thank you for your service. You are particularly one that I admire, having graduated from the University of Virginia School of Law. You're obviously a very wise man. Fellow alum, let me thank you, and I know that we'll show no bias this morning, but I do want to thank you for your service. One of the points that seemingly has not penetrated into this committee is the enormous hit that the FBI is going to take on sequestration. You mentioned $550 million, $700 million in 2014. The other was 2013, a loss of 2,200. I think you said 1,400. That is going to be somewhat devastating. Is that not correct?
Yes.
And the FBI has had a vigorous influence on the civil rights